The stars had always seemed peaceful to Park. She had spent 30 years looking at them, first as a young pilot flying cargo ships between Earth and Mars, then as a captain in the Belt Wars, and now as an admiral commanding humanity's small space fleet. She stood on the bridge of the Horizon, Earth's largest warship, and watched the blackness of space through the main window. It was a quiet night. The crew moved softly around her, checking systems and drinking coffee. Everything was normal. Then everything changed. The warning alarm screamed across every ship in the fleet. Red lights flashed on every console, grabbed the railing as her officers shouted readings she could not believe. 7,000 ships had appeared beyond Neptune. 7,000. Humanity's entire fleet was 47 vessels. She felt her heart go cold. "Admiral," her communications officer said, his voice shaking, "we are receiving a transmission. It is broadcasting on every frequency. Every channel on Earth is receiving it." Nodded slowly, put it on screen. The main display flickered. An image appeared that would remember for the rest of her life. It was not one creature but many. 12 different alien species sat in a circle of light, their forms strange and terrible. Some had scales. Some had too many eyes. One seemed to be made of shadow and starlight. They called themselves the Galactic Dominion, and they had ruled the Milky Way for 40,000 years. The creature of shadow spoke. Its voice was not sound but something that pressed directly into the mind. "Species of Earth, you have been observed, you have been measured, you have been judged. The Dominion has ruled this galaxy since before your ancestors crawled from the oceans. We do not negotiate, we do not discuss, we command. You will submit. You will pay tribute, you will serve. You have 30 rotations to comply. Resistance will result in extinction." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent, looked at her crew. Some were crying, some were praying. Some simply stared at nothing, their minds unable to accept what they had seen. On Earth, panic spread like fire. People ran through the streets. Governments called emergency meetings. Religious leaders spoke of the end times. In Seoul, the United Earth Council gathered in a bunker deep beneath the city. Secretary General stood before the representatives of every nation, his face pale but his voice steady. "We must remain calm," he said. "We must think clearly. We cannot fight 7,000 warships. We do not have the weapons. We do not have the numbers. But perhaps we can talk. Perhaps we can find terms that allow humanity to survive." Many agreed with him. What choice did they have? Some spoke of fighting, of dying with honor, but shook his head. "Honor means nothing if there is no one left to remember it," he said. "I will go to them. I will negotiate. I will find a way." But while the politicians talked, something else was happening. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, in a facility that appeared on no map and existed in no record, a woman named Han received a coded message. She was 34 years old, with tired eyes and hands that had not stopped working for 15 years. She was the chief scientist of Project Umbra, and she had built something that the world did not know existed. The Black Armada walked through the underground shipyard, her footsteps echoing in the massive space. Around her, 200 warships waited in darkness. They were not like any ships humanity had built before. Their hulls were blacker than night, designed to absorb all light and radiation. Their engines made no heat. Their weapons were things that should not exist, built from technology found in a crashed alien probe in 2298. Technology the Dominion had banned from the galaxy 10,000 years ago. For 15 years had worked in secret, building these ships, training crews that the world thought were dead, preparing for a day she hoped would never come. Now that day was here. Her assistant, a young man named, walked beside her. "Doctor," he said quietly, "are we really going to do this? If we use these ships, the Dominion will never stop hunting us." Stopped walking. She looked at the nearest ship, the Silent Fury, its black hull seeming to drink in the light around it. "The Dominion has already decided to enslave us," she said. "They gave us no choice. Now we give them none." She entered the command center and began the activation sequence. Across the world, In hidden bases beneath oceans and mountains and the dark side of the moon, ships began to wake. Meanwhile, Secretary General traveled to the Dominion flagship, a vessel called the Eternal Mandate that was larger than some moons. He brought gifts of art and music, hopping to show humanity's value. He brought promises of cooperation. He brought himself, alone and unarmed, as a sign of good faith. The Dominion received him in a chamber of crystal that seemed to be alive. The 12 rulers sat above him, looking down like judges at a criminal. The shadow creature, called simply the Voice, spoke the terms. 40% of your population will be taken for labor in our mining operations across the galaxy. All military vessels will be surrendered. No human will leave your solar system without our permission. You will build what we tell you to build. You will die when we tell you to die. These are our terms. Felt sick, and what does humanity receive in return? The Voice seemed to laugh, though it had no mouth. You receive the gift of existence. Many species are simply destroyed. We are being generous. Returned to Earth a broken man. He stood before the council and delivered the Dominion's terms. The room erupted in anger and despair. But what could they do? How could they fight gods? Then Admiral Park did something that would change history. Without permission, without orders, she activated a broadcast from the bridge of the horizon. Her face appeared on every screen on Earth. Her voice reached every ear. "My name is Park," she said. "I am the Admiral of Earth's fleet. I took an oath to protect our planet and all her children. I will not break that oath. I will not deliver humanity into slavery. The Dominion calls us weak. They call us insects. They think we will kneel because we are afraid. They are wrong. I am afraid. Every person in this fleet is afraid, but we will not kneel. Not today, not ever. If we must die, we will die standing." Across the world, people stopped. They listened. Something old and fierce woke in their hearts. And in the darkness of space, 300 Dominion warships began moving toward Earth. The war had begun. The Dominion fleet moved toward Earth like a wave of death. 300 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, crossed the solar system with terrible speed. On their bridges, alien commanders laughed at the thought of resistance. They had crushed 10,000 species before. Earth would be no different. One commander bet another that the battle would last less than 5 minutes. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched them come. Her crew was silent. They had all heard her speech. They had all chosen to stay. Not one person had asked to leave. She felt proud of them, even as she felt the weight of leading them to almost certain death. "Admiral," her weapons officer said, "enemy fleet will be in firing range in 6 hours. Nodded. 6 hours. 6 hours to live. 6 hours to somehow save humanity. Then her communications console lit up with a coded signal she did not recognize. The message was short. "Admiral Park, do not engage alone. Help is coming. Hold position and wait for the dark." Frowned. "Who sent this?" Her officer checked the signal. His face went pale. "Admiral, this signal is coming from Antarctica, from a base that does not exist in any of our records." Before could respond, her sensors detected something impossible. Ships were appearing across the solar system. They rose from the ice of Antarctica, from the depths of Earth's oceans, from craters on the moon's dark side. 200 ships, their hulls so black that they seemed like holes in space itself. They made no heat. They sent no signals. On Dominion sensors, they appeared as ghosts, or they did not appear at all. The Black Armada had risen. Commander stood on the bridge of the Silent Fury, the flagship of the Black Armada. He was 45 years old, a man who had lived in the shadows for 15 years, training for this moment. His crew called him the Ghost because he never raised his voice, never showed emotion, never seemed to sleep. He had given up everything for this fleet. His family thought he was dead. His friends had forgotten him. He had become a weapon, and now it was time to use that weapon. "All ships," he said quietly, "form up on my position. We move to intercept." The Black Armada flowed through space like a school of fish made of darkness. They moved in perfect formation, 200 ships acting as one, had trained them well. They had practiced this moment 1,000 times in secret, in simulations that the world never knew about. On the horizon, Admiral received a direct communication. His face appeared on her screen. She saw a man with cold eyes and a calm voice. "Admiral Park," he said, "I am commander of the Black Armada. We are here to support your fleet. Our ships carry weapons the Dominion has not seen in 10,000 years. We will strike first. Your job is to draw their attention, make them focus on you. Can you do this?" Stared at him. 1,000 questions burned in her mind. Where had these ships come from? Who had built them? Why had no one told her? But she pushed those questions aside. There would be time for answers later if they survived. "We can do it," she said. "What is your plan?" Almost smiled. "We are going to make them afraid." The battle began at the edge of the asteroid belt. The Dominion fleet advanced in their standard formation, a wall of ships that had crushed every enemy they had ever faced. Their commanders were confident. Their weapons were ready. They expected humanity to break and run. Instead, humanity attacked. Admiral led the conventional fleet straight at the Dominion center, 47 ships against 300. It was suicide. The Dominion commanders laughed and opened fire. Massive energy beams cut through space. The human ship Valor exploded in a ball of fire. The ship Defender lost its engines and began to drift. The Horizon took a direct hit that killed 30 crew members and knocked out half its weapons. But the humans kept coming. They kept fighting. They kept dying. And while the Dominion focused on the attack in front of them, they did not see the darkness behind them. The Black Armada struck without warning. Their ships appeared from nothing, firing weapons that the Dominion had forgotten could exist. The Void Lances did not destroy matter. They removed it from existence entirely. One moment, a Dominion warship was there. The next moment, a perfect hole had been cut through its center, and it was breaking apart. In the first 60 seconds, 47 Dominion ships died. The Dominion commanders could not understand what was happening. Their sensors showed nothing. Their shields did nothing. Ships were dying around them, killed by enemies they could not see. For the first time in 10,000 years, the masters of the galaxy felt fear. On the Silent Fury watched the battle unfold. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not felt in 15 years. Hope. "All ships," he ordered, "continue attack. No mercy, no surrender. Show them what humanity can do." The Black Armada moved through the Dominion fleet like wolves among sheep. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the enemy could respond. Their phase drives let them slip in and out of normal space, making them impossible to target. Their weapons cut through Dominion shields as if they were not there. On the horizon, Lieutenant kept firing even as her console sparked and burned. She was 26 years old and she was certain she was going to die, but she did not stop. Beside her, Chief Engineer O worked miracles, keeping the ship alive through damage that should have destroyed it 3 times over. His hands bled from torn metal. His lungs burned from smoke, but he did not stop either. "Hold the line," Admiral commanded, her voice strong even as blood ran down her face from a head wound. "Hold the line for Earth." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the remaining Dominion ships fled into hyperspace. They had come with 300 warships. They left with less than 100. Humanity had lost 18 ships, brave crews who would never go home, but they had won. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Dominion had been defeated in open combat. On Earth, people watched the battle through long-range telescopes and satellite feeds. When they saw the Dominion retreat, they did not believe it at first. Then the truth spread and the world erupted in celebration. People danced in the streets. Strangers hugged each other. Tears of joy fell like rain. On the bridge of the horizon, Admiral sat in her damaged chair and allowed herself one moment of relief. They had survived. They had won the first battle. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion would return with more ships, more weapons, more anger. This small victory had bought humanity time, nothing more. In the distance, the Black Armada gathered in the darkness, waiting for orders. Commander looked at the stars and knew the same thing new. The war was far from over. The Dominion did not wait long to respond. Across the galaxy, messages flew between their worlds. How could this happen? How could primitive humans defeat a Dominion fleet? The 12 rulers of the Dominion Council met in emergency session, their voices full of anger and confusion. The voice, the shadow creature who led them, listened to their arguments in silence. Some wanted to send more ships immediately. Others wanted to study humanity's weapons first, to understand how they had built things that should not exist. A few, very quietly, suggested that perhaps humanity should be left alone. Perhaps these strange creatures from the edge of the galaxy were too dangerous to fight. The voice ended the debate with a single decision. They would send the largest fleet ever assembled, 15,000 warships from every corner of the Dominion's empire. They would not just defeat humanity, they would erase them from existence. Every human, every colony, every ship, every memory. Earth would become a dead rock, a warning to any species that might think of resistance. It would take time to gather such a fleet, weeks, perhaps months, but when it arrived there would be no hope for humanity. On Earth, the humans used this time wisely. Dr. Han worked without sleep in her Antarctic facility, pushing her teams to build more ships, improve existing weapons, and develop new technologies. The Black Armada grew from 200 ships to 400. Each new vessel was faster, stronger, and deadlier than the ones before. Admiral and Commander finally met in person, on a station orbiting Mars. Had expected to be angry at him for keeping the Black Armada secret. Instead, she found herself grateful. "You saved us," she said simply. Shook his head. "We saved ourselves, all of us. Your fleet drew their fire. Your people died to give us our opening. We are all in this together." From that day forward, they worked as partners. Commanded the public fleet, the ships that the galaxy knew about. Commanded the Black Armada, the ships that struck from shadows. Together, they began planning for the battle that would decide humanity's future. But the most surprising development came from the stars themselves. Captain IM was an intelligence officer in the Black Armada. She was 38 years old, a woman who spoke 9 alien languages and had spent years studying Dominion communications. She was the first to notice something strange in the data. "Commander," she reported to, "we are receiving coded messages, not from the Dominion, from other species." Frowned. "What do they want?" Smiled slowly. "They want to help." It turned out that the Dominion was not loved by everyone in the galaxy. For 40,000 years, they had ruled through fear. Species who disobeyed were destroyed. Species who submitted were used as slaves and soldiers. Many alien races had lost hope long ago, accepting their fate as servants to the 12 elder species. But humanity's victory had changed everything. For the first time, someone had stood against the Dominion and won. Across the galaxy, oppressed species began to whisper. They called themselves the Forgotten, races too weak to fight alone but united in their hatred of their masters. Now they saw a chance. Messages arrived from 100 different worlds. Some offered intelligence about Dominion fleet movements. Some offered resources, rare materials that could help humanity build more weapons. Some offered soldiers, warriors who wanted to fight alongside the species that had given them hope. Secretary General, still ashamed of his earlier attempt to surrender, now worked to unite these allies. He spoke with alien leaders through secret channels, building an alliance that the Dominion did not know existed. He had learned something from his failure. Diplomacy was not about giving in to threats. It was about finding friends who shared your enemies. On Earth, the people prepared for war in a way they never had before. Old rivalries between nations disappeared. Resources were shared freely. Factories that once built cars now built weapons. Scientists who once competed now worked together, every human effort bent toward a single purpose: survival. Young people volunteered for the fleet in numbers that shocked the commanders. Training camps filled with recruits who knew they might die but chose to fight anyway. Among them was a young woman named Lee, 19 years old, the daughter of farmers from a small town in Korea. She had never been in space before. She had never fired a weapon, but she had watched Admiral's speech and something had awakened in her heart. "I want to protect my home," she said when asked why she volunteered. "I want my little brothers to grow up free." She was assigned to a black Armada ship called the Night Wind, under the command of a captain named Shin Minyu. He was only 30, young for a captain, but he had trained in secret for 10 years. His crew called him Steady because nothing seemed to shake him. The weeks passed, the Dominion fleet gathered, and humanity prepared for the battle that would decide everything. Doctor developed new weapons in her final days of work. One was called the Star Lance, a weapon that could focus the energy of a small star into a single destructive beam. Another was a shield system that could bend space itself, making ships nearly impossible to hit. She worked until she collapsed from exhaustion, then got up and worked more. Commander studied every piece of intelligence the Forgotten provided. He learned the Dominion's tactics, their weaknesses, their fears. He developed plans and backups for the backups. He would not let his people die because he had not prepared enough. Admiral trained her crews until they could fight in their sleep. She pushed them hard, but she also cared for them. She learned every name, every face, every story. These were her people, and she would do everything in her power to bring them home. Finally, the day came. Dominion scouts reported the gathering of the enemy fleet. 15,000 warships, just as promised. The largest military force the galaxy had ever seen, all pointed at one small planet on the edge of nowhere. The final battle would take place in the space between Jupiter and Saturn, where humanity had built its strongest defensive positions. It was here that the fate of Earth would be decided. It was here that humanity would stand or fall. Admiral addressed the combined fleet one last time. 400 black Armada ships, 200 conventional warships, thousands of fighters and support vessels, and scattered among them, ships from 20 different alien species, the Forgotten who had chosen to fight alongside humanity. "They call us young," said, her voice carrying to every ship, every crew member, every soldier. "They call us weak. They say we do not know our place in the galaxy. They are right. We do not know our place. So today we take theirs, fight well, fight hard, and know that whatever happens, you are the finest warriors this galaxy has ever seen." The crews cheered. On the Night Wind, young Lee gripped her console and tried to control her shaking hands. Beside her, Captain Shin Minyu placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Fear is normal," he said quietly. "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is fighting despite it." Nodded and took a deep breath, she was ready. In the distance, 15,000 Dominion ships dropped out of hyperspace. The final battle had begun. The space between Jupiter and Saturn turned into hell. 15,000 Dominion warships advanced in a wall of fire and death. Their weapons lit up the darkness like 1,000 angry suns. Their shields glowed with power that could crack moons. The commanders of this great fleet were confident. They had brought enough force to destroy 100 civilizations. But humanity was not 100 civilizations. Humanity was something new. Admiral Park commanded the conventional fleet from the bridge of the horizon, which had been repaired and upgraded since the last battle. She watched the enemy approach on her tactical display, counting the ships, measuring their formation. There were so many, too many. "All ships," she ordered, "execute pattern Alpha, draw them into the gravity well." The human fleet began to retreat, pulling back toward Saturn. The Dominion commanders saw this and laughed. They thought humanity was running away. They pushed forward eagerly, wanting to crush the humans before they could escape. They did not see the trap until it was too late. Commander had positioned the Black Armada in the rings of Saturn, hiding among the ice and rock. 400 ships, invisible to Dominion sensors, waiting in perfect silence. When the enemy fleet passed the designated point, gave a single command. All ships attack. The Black Armada emerged from the rings like ghosts rising from graves. Their void lances fired in perfect coordination, cutting through Dominion ships before they could raise shields. Their phase drives let them slip between enemy vessels, appearing and disappearing like nightmares. In the first 10 minutes, 800 Dominion ships died. But the Dominion had numbers and they used them. They spread their fleet wide, surrounding the human positions. They poured fire into every sector, accepting losses to ensure they hit something. The human ship Dawn broke apart under concentrated bombardment. The ship Valiant exploded when a lucky shot hit its reactor. The Black Armada vessel Night Blade was cut in half by a massive energy beam. On the Night Wind, young Lee worked her console with desperate focus. She was responsible for targeting, feeding information to the weapons officers. Her screen showed hundreds of enemy ships, any one of which could kill them. She wanted to freeze, to hide, to pretend this was not real, but she kept working. Target bearing Mark 7, she called out. Enemy cruiser shields damaged. The Night Wind's weapons fired. The enemy cruiser died, did not celebrate. She was already looking for the next target. Captain Shin Minyu commanded his ship with calm precision, but inside he was terrified. His crew was young. His ship was taking damage, and the enemy kept coming more and more, an endless wave of death. Evasive pattern Delta, he ordered. Get us behind that asteroid. The Night Wind twisted through space, dodging enemy fire by meters. A beam grazed their hull, melting armor but not breaking through. They reached the asteroid and used it for cover, catching a moment to breathe. In other parts of the battlefield, the story was the same. Humanity fought with everything they had, but they were losing. Slowly, surely, the Dominion's numbers were overwhelming them. Then the Forgotten arrived. Ships from 20 different species dropped out of hyperspace behind the Dominion fleet. They were not many, perhaps 300 vessels, but they hit the enemy where they did not expect it. Supply ships exploded. Command vessels lost their communications. Suddenly, the Dominion had enemies on all sides. Captain IM had coordinated this surprise attack through weeks of secret communication. She watched from the silent fury as her allies struck, and she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Dominion had ruled through fear. Now they would learn what happened when that fear became anger. The battle shifted. What had been a slow defeat became a fierce struggle. The Dominion commanders tried to regroup, but their formation was broken. Ships that had never fought together tried to coordinate. Communications became confused. Orders were missed. Admirals saw the opportunity. All ships pushed forward, hit their center, break them apart. The human fleet surged forward. The Horizon led the charge, its weapons blazing, its shields holding against everything the enemy threw at it. Chief Engineer O worked miracles in the engine room, keeping power flowing to systems that should have failed hours ago. His hands were burned. His back ached, but he did not stop. "Come on, old girl," he whispered to the ship. "Just a little longer." Commander brought the Black Armada through the center of the Dominion fleet, cutting a path of destruction. The Silent Fury's void lances fired again and again, each shot killing an enemy ship. Around him, his captains fought with skill and courage. The ships Phantom, Dark Star, and Eclipse worked together to bring down a Dominion dreadnought, the largest ship in the enemy fleet. Dr. Han watched the battle from a command station on Mars. She had done all she could. The ships she had built, the weapons she had designed, were now in the hands of others. All she could do was watch and hope. And pray. The battle lasted 3 days. For 3 days, humans and their allies fought against the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Ships died on both sides. Heroes fell. Sacrifices were made. On the second day, Captain Shin Minyu ordered his crew to abandon ship when the night wind took fatal damage. He stayed behind to cover their escape, piloting the dying vessel into an enemy carrier. His final words were, "Tell my mother I was brave." Lee, floating in an escape pod, watched the explosion through tears. She had known Captain Minyu for only weeks, but he had taught her what courage truly meant. On the third day, the Dominion fleet broke. Their commanders, seeing that victory was impossible, ordered retreat. Ships fled in every direction, abandoning formation, abandoning each other. The great fleet that was supposed to destroy humanity scattered like leaves in a storm. The human fleet was too damaged to pursue, but they had won. Admiral sat in her command chair, surrounded by the ruins of her bridge. Half her crew was dead. Her ship could barely move, but she was alive. Earth was alive. Humanity had survived. She opened a channel to the fleet. Her voice was tired but steady. "This is Admiral Park. All ships stand down from combat operations. Begin rescue and recovery. We have wounded who need help. We have dead who deserve honor. And we have a galaxy that needs to know what happened here." Across the fleet, survivors cheered and cried and held each other. On escape pods and damaged ships, people who had thought they would die realized they would live. Commander looked at the wreckage of the battlefield. Thousands of ships, human and Dominion and forgotten, drifting in the darkness. So much death, so much destruction. He felt no joy in this victory, only relief that it was over. But it was not over, not yet. The Dominion had been defeated but not destroyed. Somewhere in the galaxy, their leaders were still alive, still dangerous, still dreaming of revenge. Humanity would have to finish what they had started. The reckoning was coming. The Dominion's home system sat at the center of the galaxy, surrounded by defenses that had protected it for 40,000 years. Weapon platforms the size of small moons. Shield generators that could stop an entire fleet. Sensor networks that could detect a single ship from light years away. No enemy had ever reached this place. No enemy had ever tried. Until now. The Voice and the Dominion Council believed they were safe. Yes, they had lost the Great Fleet. Yes, the humans had proven stronger than expected, but their home was protected. They would rebuild. They would return. And when they did, they would be more careful. They would not underestimate humanity again. They did not know that Commander had been planning this moment for 15 years. The galactic core was a place of death. Massive black holes, rivers of radiation, gravity wells that could tear ships apart. No fleet could navigate it. No sensors could see through it. For 10,000 years, the Dominion had considered it an impassable barrier, a natural defense that made their home untouchable. But Dr. Han had studied the alien probe that crashed on Earth in 2298. She had found star maps that showed a path through the core. A dangerous path, a path that required technology the Dominion had banned ago. But it was possible. The Black Armada gathered at the edge of the core, 300 ships that had survived the Great Battle. With them came the Horizon, carrying Admiral Park, and 200 vessels from the Forgotten Allies. They were going to do something no species had done in 20,000 years. They were going to bring judgment to the Dominion. The journey through the core took 7 days. Ships were lost to radiation storms and gravity anomalies. Crews worked in constant danger, navigating by ancient maps and desperate hope. Commander did not sleep for the entire journey, watching every sensor reading, making every decision, carrying the weight of humanity on his shoulders. Admiral walked through the horizon, talking with her crew, sharing meals, sharing fears. She knew that many of them would not survive what was coming. She wanted them to know they mattered. "Why do you do it?" a young officer asked her. "Why do you keep fighting?" Thought for a long moment. "Because giving up is worse than dying," she said finally. "Because somewhere on Earth, children are playing in the sunlight, not knowing that we are here, not knowing that everything depends on what we do. I fight for them. I fight so they can keep playing, keep laughing, keep dreaming. That is why. On the seventh day, the fleet emerged from the galactic core. Before them lay the Dominion home system, and before them lay defenses that should have stopped any attack. But the defenses did not fire. Captain IM had spent months working with resistance cells across the galaxy, forgotten species who served as workers and technicians in the Dominion's home system. They had waited for this moment. When the human fleet appeared, they shut down the weapon platforms. They disabled the shield generators. They opened a path. The Dominion Council realized what was happening too late. They sent orders to their remaining ships. They called for reinforcements, but their communications were jammed. Their systems were failing. The empire they had built on fear was crumbling around them. Admiral broadcast a message to the Dominion worlds. Her voice reached every planet, every station, every ship in the system. This is Admiral Park of the United Earth Fleet. For 40,000 years you have ruled this galaxy through terror and slavery. You demanded that humanity submit. You would have taken our children as slaves. You would have erased our culture, our dreams, our very existence. We refused, and now we are here to deliver judgment. She paused. On the council chamber, the 12 rulers of the Dominion listened in silence. The voice, the creature of shadow, felt something it had not felt in fear. You thought you were gods, continued. You thought you could do whatever you wanted to whoever you wanted forever. You were wrong. Today your empire ends, but we are not like you. We will not destroy your species. We will not enslave your children. Instead, we will show you something you have forgotten: mercy. The terms of humanity's judgment were simple. The Dominion was dissolved. The 12 elder species would be confined to their home worlds for 100 years, unable to leave, unable to threaten anyone. Their weapons would be destroyed. Their fleets would be dismantled. The species they had enslaved would be freed. Above every Dominion world, human ships took station, not as conquerors but as guardians. They would ensure that no one rebuilt the old empire. They would protect the weak from the strong. They would create something new. Not everyone agreed with this mercy. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted to destroy the Dominion completely, to make them suffer as they had made others suffer. Commander understood this anger. He felt it himself. But Dr. Han had convinced him otherwise. If we become like them, we lose, she said. If we answer cruelty with cruelty, evil with evil, we are no better. Humanity must be different. We must build, not destroy. Had listened, and in the end he had agreed. The Dominion Council surrendered without a fight. The voice, stripped of its power, faded into silence. The other rulers accepted their fate, having no choice. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years ended not with a great battle, but with a quiet signing of documents. In the months that followed, a new order emerged. Secretary General led the creation of the United Species Assembly, a place where all races could speak as equals. Former slaves became leaders. Former masters learned humility. It was not easy. Old hatreds did not disappear overnight, but slowly, painfully, progress was made. Captain IM became an ambassador, traveling between worlds, helping species rebuild what the Dominion had taken from them. She found purpose in healing instead of spying. Chief Engineer O returned to Earth, to his family, to a small house by the sea where he could finally rest. His wife cried when she saw him. His children did not recognize him at first, but soon they were laughing together, playing together, living the peaceful life he had fought to protect. Lee, the young woman who had volunteered because she wanted her little brothers to grow up free, became an officer in the new fleet. She carried Captain Minu's memory with her always, honoring his sacrifice by living with courage. Commander disbanded the Black Armada. The ships were hidden once again, sleeping in the darkness between stars. They would wait there, ready, in case they were ever needed again. He hoped they never would be. Admiral Park stood before the United Species Assembly and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "We did not seek this war," she said. "We did not want this power, but when the galaxy demanded we kneel, we chose to stand. And we will stand for any species that refuses to bow to tyranny. This is humanity's promise. This is our gift to the stars. Freedom is not something that is given. It is something that is taken and then protected and then shared. Today, we share it with all of you." Dr. Hen watched the speech from her laboratory, now a place of peace and research instead of weapons and war. She smiled. The Black Armada had been her greatest creation. But this new galaxy of hope and freedom was her greatest achievement. In the vast darkness of space, the stars continued to shine. They had witnessed empires rise and fall. They had seen species born and die. And now they witnessed something new. A galaxy where strength was used to protect, not destroy, where different species worked together instead of ruling each other, where a small, young species from the edge of nowhere had shown that courage and compassion could change everything. The galaxy had demanded that Earth submit. Instead, humanity had judged the galaxy and found it wanting. And in that judgment, a new era began. An era of hope. An era of freedom. An era of humanity among the stars.